What's up, world? It's your boy AJ the Black World Traveler, and today I'm going to talk about the clarification of being a Native American and indigenous person in America. And I just want to, first I want to give props to my roots because I have Choctaw and Blackfoot Indian, Cherokee blood.
All right, today's language is Choctaw. So Choctaw is another Native American language and spoken in the United States by the indigenous people who were the first inhabitants of the United States. Halaito, Chim Achukma, Amachukma, Amachukma.
I would never ever disrespect my roots here and my tribes here. Any of the tribes I would never disrespect, no matter if they're Dakota, no matter if they're Asiatic, I would never ever disrespect. So let's get this clear. And let me tell you something, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an educator. I am a person who is learning who I am as a person. And I want people to be enlightened and understand that when there were fossils shown that the copper-toned man was the first one in the Americas, at the end of the day, we're talking about the whole Americas. We're talking about the North and South and Central America. And the thing about it, we do know that the Native American, the indigenous, the Native American are here. We all blended together. So even if you're indigenous or Native, at the end of the day, we all blended together. Everybody damn near black in the Americas have blended, have made it, or we are related, or we have blended with the Native American. So you can't deny that. Cannot deny that. Everybody in their family, every black person have met, especially in the generation before my generation in the 70s. My mother, my grandmother, they all met their relatives. My mother met her great-grandmother, which is my great-great-grandmother. She was a full-blood Cherokee. She was copper-toned. You know, you gotta realize, man, maybe you ain't never seen a Native American or an indigenous American.
First off, let's define indigenous. Cherokee, Sioux, Apache, and Navajo, Iroquois, Chippewa, Choctaw, Pueblo. The Tainos are peaceful people in Cuba, Haiti, DR, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. The native people, original inhabitants, living on every single continent. Then somebody shows up and says, I discovered it.
And I was just in Parker, Arizona last year. And some of the tribe out there, I think they're called the Mojave tribe, I think it is. I met a dude from the Mojave tribe. He looked like a black Asian. He looked like he was like a melanated Asian. And I said, man, where you from? He said, I'm from California, from the Mojave tribe. And I was like, bro, you look like a brother from the Philippines. Like, yeah. He's like, thank you, man, thank you. To people always trying to categorize me where I'm from. So let me get that clear with y'all. See, I did a whole thing about the slave trade debunk. I debunked basically the travel route of slavery. I debunked that because I didn't think it was true. By the way, it was described inside of the history books. It seemed false to me. It didn't seem real. By the way they described the conditions that the people were brought over on these ships, and that these ships were not modernized. These ships had no sewage systems. They had no fresh water. They had no land from Africa to the Americas. There's no place to stop. There were no ports to stop to restock food, get fresh water. So if you use your brain, because some people are just programmed to read books and think everything that an author says is good. If you use your brain, if you go over 2,000 miles back in 500 years ago on an uncivilized ship, there's no way you would bring all these people over in the masses like you said you brought them over and they survive. And also, you got to realize when the Europeans sent their ships out and put people on, they put all men on these ships, they were their prisoners. I learned this in America, and I actually learned it in America. I learned this in Australia, because in Australia, when I lived in Australia, my white friend told me how they got to Australia. They were prisoners, basically. So I learned that was the British sent their prisoners to Australia as their prison colony. When they got there, of course, the Aborigines was already there, and they kind of befriended them. You know, they got sick from them because of diseases that they carried in Great Britain. A lot of them got, they're wiped out by disease alone. They did the same thing in Samoa, in Hawaii, all through the Pacific Islands. They did it in the Native America. When they came to the Americas, they don't tell us that they were prisoners. They were prisoners. Even the ships that landed here, they had their prisoners. They're the ones that came with the slave ships. Now, why in the world would they go to Africa? Think about this. You got all these Europeans, they put these Europeans on these ships as prisoners. and told them to leave and don't come back. So they go to Africa. You think black people gonna give all these people to these white prisoners on a ship? They're already savages. They wild, and you gonna let them take your people out of the country and take them across the water? It don't make any sense to me. So I had to debunk. I'm sorry, man. I have a brain, and just because a scholar said it. People challenge me and say, well, you need to study these scholars and these people that wrote these books. That's a problem. You're reading somebody else's story. Anybody can write you something. Use your common sense. Common sense, you can't survive like that. So let's go back to the indigenous and Native American topic. So I had to get that out of my blood real quick. So yeah, I've been getting attacked by that. But let me tell you something, bro. There's nothing wrong with being Native American. Nothing wrong with being proving that there's nothing wrong with being happy that you have you have a connection here in America. I would never ever deny my Native American side. I would never ever deny my Choctaw, my Blackfoot, my Cherokee roots. I would never put Africa in front of that, because I know my family tree shows who we are. The Hawthorne family. Hawthorne is our Native American name from the Cherokee Nation. That's our roots. You can track your family tree. I'm not going to deny my family tree. Even if I came from Africa, I have more of an identity here in the Americas because I was raised here. Even if I do a DNA test, only thing that's bad about it, I can't go back to the land in Africa. If I found that I'm from a certain tribe, I can never go back to Africa and go meet. There's no cousins. There's no aunties that are still there, or no uncles or granddads that I can go back and see. See, the Africans could do that. An African person that came in from America, if they came from Africa a generation or two ago and they want to go back to their home back, they can go back to their tribe. Even if they came here at a not so peaceful time in Africa, if they came here when there was a war, they always can go back home. They have a connection. We don't have that. So I am not saying, if you want to just say you're African and that's it, that's fine. But I would never ever deny my history. I know who I am and where I'm from. I was told everybody black in America, especially back in the 70s and 60s, were all told either they met their ancestors or their grandparents or their great-grandparents met their ancestors. They told them who they were. Oh yeah, your grandmother was Cherokee. She was full-blood Cherokee. She was full-blood Choctaw. Now, we were mostly in the South, so our tribes are mostly from the South. When you talk like the Dakotas and the Apaches and those are more like in the North. So a lot of us didn't have the bloodline there because a lot of us are in the South. A lot of our tribes were in the South, the Wampanoag, the Creek, the Cherokee. We were down on the coast, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas. So a lot of our tribes were down there. We were mostly our native tribes that we were blood to, that we were related to, are down in those parts. I love seeing the powwows. I love seeing the traditional dancing, because that's part of me. That's part of who I am. I'm never going to deny that. Mostly everybody that lived especially in the South, we all have those roots. And you should be proud of your roots. Never deny your roots. Even if you have African ancestry, never deny your native roots right here in America. Never deny your indigenous inhabitants in this country. Never deny that. We have that. You should embrace that. You should be proud of that. Like I say, Davis was our name we got from slavery, but Hawthorne is our name that we got from my tribe, and I'm gonna keep on to that. And anytime I see a native, I give them respect because they're still going through it. They're still going through shit worse than we go through. Look at the conditions of the reservations, man. How they don't even give them, and how can we deny them when they were the ones that kept us out a lot of the harm's way when we were getting invaded by these Europeans. A lot of times they were the ones that took us in. You know what I'm saying? Because they already lived on the land with us, or we already got there. We were already living on the land with them together. So if y'all like my content, it's your boy, the Black World Traveler. I am out. Pew.